Why am I not? Oh. There you are. Is this Austin? Hi, Austin. Just living the dream. Let's go! A Friday edition of the show. All across the country on our SportsMap Radio affiliates. All over the world, thanks to the SportsMap Radio app. You can listen to us there. You can watch us on YouTube, the Decibel 88 channel on YouTube. Also, Decibel 88 channel on Facebook. We're on Twitch, Jason Page 77. There's all sorts of ways to consume the show. Twitter at the back page, which is also where you could send us any comments on any of the topics we get into during the course of the show. A lot to do, busy 3 hours ahead, as it always is, of course. It's Friday, which means we'll do Page's Picks. We'll do that tonight to start the final hour of the show. So 9:07, like 9:15 p.m. Pacific. We'll get into the latest edition of Page's Picks. I'm 10-11 on the year, so I'm not great, but not terrible either. I'm telling you, the league is just tough to pick this year. It's the only way I can describe it. There are weeks where I think I've got some great picks, and I'm going 1-3, and weeks I don't think I have good picks where I'm going 3-1. There just isn't a lot of in between. It's either really good or really bad. In this hour of the show, Nick Hamilton will stop by, founder of Nightcast Media, host on SiriusXM. We'll talk all things LA sports with Nick Hamilton coming up about 35 minutes from now. This Cam Akers story I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, because obviously he hasn't been playing to the expectations of LA sports fans or Rams fans or people who follow the NFL. But kind of an odd story with him stepping away from the team for basically personal reasons. They're giving him some time away from the team. We'll talk with Nick about that. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Dodgers. Sure, why not? The Desean Watson story continues to evolve. We'll get into that coming up in about 17 minutes. But as we continue, Week 6 in the NFL brings us basically 1/3 of the way through the season. What's going on there? We'll also keep an eye on the Dodgers and Padres playoff game. Just getting started. Friday edition of The Cash-In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Austin, I'm sending you a rundown. We've got a guest live at 7:40 Pacific and 8:40 Pacific. We will replay the 7:40 Pacific guest at 9:40 Pacific. Got. Say it again. Correct. And here comes the show rundown right now. Just kicking off this Friday edition of the show. We're going to have some fun tonight. Not that we don't always have fun, but we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Because there's a lot to talk about. And not every single thing I'm doing tonight is sports related. It's Friday. I want to have a little fun. And I got a fun topic I want to get into in the second hour. Nick Hamilton will join us coming up about 38 minutes from now, or rather 28 minutes from now. Get some thoughts with him on all things LA sports. Talk about maybe a little bit about this Padres. I probably won't. I'll probably avoid it because that's still going on. But Padres lead the Dodgers right now 1-0 as they play in the top of the fourth at Petco Park with the Padres trying to take a 2-1 series lead. And not that I plan on talking about this in this segment because we'll do the playoff baseball in the next hour a bit more. But the Dodgers look very ordinary. For a team that won 111 games, and look, maybe it's just the Padres making them look that way, but the Dodgers look like a very ordinary team when I watch them matched up against this Padres team. Not to say that I think the Dodgers are bad or anything like that. It's just the Padres are making them look rather pedestrian through the first 3 games of this series. Or 2.5 games of this series, however you want to look at it. And Blake Snell is working some magic. Some Houdini acts to get out of some jams. So we'll keep you posted on that game. Matter of fact, we're all about the live betting. Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. Right now on the live money line, it's the Padres minus 190, the Dodgers plus 148. If you're looking for the Dodgers on the live betting spread, it is plus a 1.5 at minus 186. The Padres at plus 144 minus the the 1.5, and the total right now is set at 5.5. With the game in the top of the fourth, 1-0, kind of feels like an under game. These games are going to be sort of grinded out. Neither offense putting up gigantic numbers. And pitching really ruling the day. I mean, the Dodgers are fortunate because Tony Gonsolin was terrible, only gave them an inning plus, and the Dodgers at least still find themselves in this game at 1-0, but they're going to have to get a ton of outs from their bullpen in order to win, and I don't know necessarily if that's a recipe for victory. I think you would have to love the Padres. If you were going to do the live money line right now, I would take the Padres at -205. I have a hard time believing the Dodgers are going to be able to contain this offense for another 6 innings just strictly, or 5 innings using just their bullpen. Anyway, Nick Hamilton will join us. We'll talk some LA sports with him coming up in about 25 minutes. Get some thoughts with him on this Cam Akers story as well. And the Lakers getting set to kick off their season too. So looking forward to talking with Nick about the LA Lakers, Clippers as well. The Desean Watson story I want to get to, we'll do that coming up in about 10 minutes. We're at the 1/3 point. After this week, believe it or not, we're already a third of the way through the NFL season, which feels like it began about 5 minutes ago. And, at the beginning of the year, we go and make all of our predictions, and we try to figure out, all right, who's going to finish where, who's your MVP, who's your your overs and unders on win totals, division winners, all of that stuff. Now that we're basically at the third of the way point, this is where you'll be able to start saying, all right, this team, and we did it the other night with the Bears, and you could already do it with the Commanders. Almost said it. You could start to do this already with a lot of these teams once you get through this week. There's a lot of those, right now there's a lot of 3-2s and 2-3s that become 2-4s. And potentially 3-3s, and potentially the 3-2s that get to 4-2. You're going to start to figure it out this week. I think when we come back on the air Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on SportsMap Radio and our SportsMap Radio affiliates across the country, I think we're going to have a really good sense for contenders and pretenders. Because right now, if you look at the AFC East, you can't rule anybody out. You might like to think you can when the Patriots are starting Bailey Zapp at quarterback. You might like to think you can when, the Jaguars are 2-3. But you really can't. Because it's been a mixed bag for so many of these teams. And I've talked about this ad nauseum. When you look at it and you've got basically Buffalo and Kansas City that have set themselves from the pack in the AFC. And you've got the Eagles at 5-0. I am not buying the Vikings, who I think are a lot of smoke and mirrors right now. You cannot win through an entire season playing the kind of football they're playing. And by that, I mean every game is a nail biter. I'm not yet a buyer on the Vikings. So in the NFC, Philadelphia is kind of the top level record-wise, but I put the Cowboys and the 49ers right there with them because those defenses are so good. And then you've got your next tier teams. And by the way, next tier is the Buccaneers. I don't have them as a top tier NFC team. I don't see how you could through 5 weeks. But I think after this week, you'll be able to do that a little bit more succinctly. We can have a more nuanced conversation about where these teams are once you're a third of the way through the season. I mean, the quarter pole of the NFL season now is 4 games. A little over 4 games because you're talking about a 17-game schedule. Once you're through this week and you're basically a third of the way through, again, there's no pretenders. There's no pretending to be good. Teams win early on. Like we were all high on Jacksonville after their start. And a lot of people were going off on them being, potential AFC South champions. By the way, including me. And I still think they could be. But when you watch them the last 2 weeks, you're like, something's wrong here. Drop 2 straight, one of them to the Texans, and you start going, oh, man, maybe they're not as good as we think. Well, after this week, with a big divisional game against Indianapolis. And again, you got a lot of those divisional games this week. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Philadelphia and Dallas. Denver and Los Angeles. Chargers and Broncos. You're going to get more of that this week. Arizona and Seattle. And when we get through this week, I think we're going to have a much stronger sense as to who's legit and who's just sort of on the periphery and maybe could be a wild card team, but you don't really take them seriously to make a deep run into the postseason. I mean, even the Jets at 3-2. I mean, the AFC East right now is kind of interesting after Buffalo. We all assumed the second best team in the division was going to be the Dolphins. They've obviously run into some injury problems, having dropped the last two. But the Jets, with Zach Wilson at quarterback, all of a sudden they're 2-0 with Wilson at quarterback. And I think a true test to see if this is for real. And again, I really do. I think this is the sort of for real week around the NFL. There's so many of these games. The Jets are in Lambeau to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. We're going to know after that game, is this thing for real? They go in there and get their doors blown off. All right, same old Jets. Fairly or unfairly, that's where we'll be. The Giants are the same thing right now. When I talk about the top teams in the league, the Giants are 4-1, but I'm not talking about them as a top team, and neither is Vegas. We talked about the spread on the show, I think yesterday we did it. The Giants going into that game against Baltimore are at home. And they are now they're a 6-point underdog at home against a 3-2 Ravens team. That tells you everything you need to know about the lack of respect the Giants are still getting at 4-1. +6 at home against a Baltimore team that has been very shaky through the first 5 games. And that line was 5.5 yesterday, which means it's gone up. Which means more people are still betting Baltimore despite the fact that they were giving 5.5, now 6. We'll see if the line settles there. If it goes up to 6.5, I'd be shocked. But there's not a lot of confidence, obviously, in the Giants. Buffalo and Kansas City, obviously the game of the week, along with Dallas and Philadelphia. I mean, there are so many compelling matchups this week that really get your attention. And like I said, when we come back here on Monday, I think the picture starts to clear up a little bit. Whereas right now, there's 2 or 3 teams you could basically look at and say they've got no shot at anything this year. Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington, the Bears, and maybe Detroit and Carolina. I mean, that's about it. Everybody else right now, it's still a big question mark. What do you think? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Do I have it lined up correctly? Tweet at the show at The Back Page if you want to let us know what you think. On Twitter at The Back Page. Keeping an eye on the baseball right now. They are in the bottom of the 4th with the Padres now leading the Dodgers 2-0. Not sure how they got that run off the look during the break, but Padres up 2-0 now. And I told you just a few minutes ago, take them on the money line when they were basically minus 200 on the live money line. Now it's minus 430. Any value that existed is now gone. But bottom of the 4th, runner on first at last check. Padres lead the Dodgers 2-0. We will keep you posted. Coming back to talk some Desean Watson. What does the NFL do this time, if anything? We'll get to it next on The Cash In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Wake up call. Wow. Soto missed a home run by an eyelash. Wow. Continuing with this Friday edition of the show, boy, I'll tell you, Juan Soto just missed a home run by an eyelash in this Padres 2-0 lead over the Dodgers. I mean, they showed the angle from the left field wall on the side, and not for nothing, again, going far afield from where I'm going in this segment, but there are fans, the way they have the wall set up in left field at Petco, there are fans that can basically hang out right over the field with their arms. I'm shocked there aren't more fan interference problems with balls out there because the wall is low. If a player puts his glove up, it's right at fan level. And, man, come the postseason, you do not want that to become an issue. And it certainly can when you're talking about fans being that close to the players on the field, heated rivalry between these two teams. Ugh. It's just a recipe for disaster. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. In 12 minutes, we'll talk with Nick Hamilton, founder of Nightcast Media. He's a host on Sirius XM. We'll talk all things LA sports with Nick Hamilton, who joins us coming up just a few minutes from now. Get some thoughts with him. I don't know how you handle this at this point if you're the NFL. I get a sense for how they're going to handle it, but the story broke last night while we were on the air doing the program, and it said on Thursday, yet another lawsuit was filed against Browns quarterback Desean Watson. And according to the NFL, they're saying this doesn't change his status. NFL chief spokesman Brian McCarthy telling Pro Football Talk via email, Watson's status remains unchanged. We'll monitor developments in the newly filed litigation, and any conduct that warrants further investigation or possible additional sanctions would be addressed within the personal conduct policy. Now, remember, he's in the middle of serving an 11-game suspension based on a process that had a bunch of evidence as to 4 alleged victims to Judge Sue L. Robinson, the jointly hired hearing officer under that personal conduct policy. And it's unclear right now. Nobody seems to know whether or not the league can pursue additional discipline based on other potential claims that are filed after they've already gone through this whole thing with Sue L. Robinson. If this is something that happened allegedly during the time during which all of these other alleged naughty massages, which turned into sexual encounters and women being coerced into sexual behavior that they may not have necessarily wanted to be involved in. If that is the case, and this just falls within the purview of what is already being punished in this case, how does the league take more action? Should they? Yes. Should he have been allowed to play a single down this season? No. But what do you do if you're the league and this already falls within that window? And this is a league that frowns and shuns away the idea of controversy during the season. Are they going to want to relitigate this headache for them? Again, I'm not saying that's the right way to handle it. In fact, I'll say it. That's the wrong way to handle it. But we've seen too many examples of this league either waiting for firestorms to expire, calm down, and just they've always taken the waited out approach because they know eventually it'll get back to the football and people won't care about this stuff. I mean, heck, you've got fans in Cleveland celebrating Desean Watson, not just excited about him playing. They're celebrating him. They're making jokes at tailgate parties about the things he did concerning these women. Watson is set to come back for Cleveland in Week 13 against Houston. And beyond any new claims, his return could be delayed based on whether and to what extent he complies or fails to comply with the terms of his current discipline. I haven't heard anything that said he isn't complying, though. But there is the potential for more lawsuits until the 2-year anniversary of the last massage during which, and Pro Football Talk states this, so I want to make sure I give them credit. The potential for more lawsuits lingers until the 2-year anniversary of the last massage during which Watson allegedly attempted to convert the therapy into a sexual encounter. Assuming that he stopped once he was sued, that window, as a practical matter, would close in the middle of March of 2023. What do you do if you're the league? Again, to me, Watson shouldn't be playing another down in the NFL. I wouldn't let him play ever again if it were me. But at the very least, he should have been suspended for a year. And he went and settled all these cases. And there are no criminal charges. But I think we all pretty much know at this point what went down when you've got all these different women who none of which basically know each other who are telling you this is what Desean Watson did to me or made me do to him. And I still think it's just disgusting that you had teams like the Browns drooling over the idea of being able to bring this guy onto their roster. Is winning and finally being able to win, is there such desperation as a franchise that you bring this sort of human being into your organization, into your fan base, into your community, which you also have a responsibility for? Need to look any further than the New England Patriots, who I've often criticized for the Aaron Hernandez matter. They brought somebody into their organization that they knew had issues off the field. And at the end of the day, a member of their community wound up dead. And yes, I do think that organizations have a responsibility to the communities they live in. And I'm not just talking about going and helping to build a house for Habitat for Humanity or helping, hand out some plastic cups at a United Way event. I'm talking about the types of character people you bring into your organization that are going to be mingling amongst your community. You have a responsibility. And I mean, the Browns right now are a 2-3 team in a very mediocre AFC North, where the Ravens are kind of plodding along at 3-2. The Bengals are 2-3. We know the Steelers are not going to be a factor except when we're talking about the top pick overall in the draft. What do you do? You know, I just wonder if at some point it becomes too much even for the Browns organization that they take a step back and say, you know what, we know you're eligible to play after week 13, but when you come back, we're just not playing you. Especially if they're playing well under Jacoby Brissett. Is that a possibility? That the organization would have an about face, a come to Jesus moment where they suddenly realize we cannot embrace this sort of player, this sort of human being? We're going to find out soon enough. The phone number is 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can tweet at the show at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Dodgers trail the Padres 2-0 as they play in the top of the fifth. Runner on first, nobody out for the Dodgers, who are plus 178 on the money line on the live betting. The Padres at minus 230. Dodgers plus 1.5 when you're talking about the live spread. I loved the Padres in this game. I think they're going to win. And as the live betting is concerned, I told you to take the Padres on the money line when they were at minus 200. Now they're up at 230, so it's a little more manageable if you're looking to place another bet on them, but you're going to be giving up some juice for sure. Nick Hamilton joins us on the other side, talk all things LA sports with the SiriusXM host as we continue on the Cash In. I'm Jason Page. Good to have you with us on a Friday on SportsMap Radio. I hope I'm not catching a cold. Yeah. My partner's not feeling well. I'm not feeling well. It's not good. I got a bowl at tournament tomorrow. Everybody talking to you. Try and get out of this with a 1 run if you're the Padres. Moving along on this Friday edition of the Cash In, SportsMap Radio, SportsMap Radio app. Watch the show on Twitter at the back page. Watch it on YouTube, our Decibel 88 channel, Facebook, the Decibel 88 channel as well. 2-0, now 2-1 Padres in front of the Dodgers, and some trouble for San Diego kicking the ball around in the outfield out there at Petco Field. We'll keep you posted on the playoff game. And now all of a sudden on the live line, you've got the Dodgers at -112, the Padres at -112, both on the money line. So move at your own discretion. Let's bring in Nick Hamilton. Excited to talk to him. First time I've had him on the show. Somebody that my friends have spoken highly of. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Some friends of mine in the industry had turned me on to him. He does a great job, founder of Nightcast Media, host on Sirius XM as well. Nick, I want to talk to you about a bunch of LA sports stuff, but let me begin first of all with this Cam Akers story, which, I mean, for me, it kind of popped up out of nowhere. I know he hasn't played particularly well for the team this season, but now essentially stepping away from the team for a few days. What's going on?
Well, first of all, Jason, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. I must pay your friends very well for me to say such great things about me, so I know the check is good. But as far as Cam Akers is concerned, the Los Angeles Rams, there's been a little bit of friction here and there in the last couple of weeks between the coaching staff and Cam Akers. And so when obviously yesterday he wasn't at practice, there was some eyebrows being raised, but nothing too much because they were like, hey, there are other guys that were being obviously kept out of practice, like Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and name escapes me at the moment.
That's okay.
But anyway, there were certain players that already kept out of practice, so we were like, okay, let's focus on their injuries and kind of watch to see what's going on. And then today, it comes out that Cam Akers has basically been sent home, and he will not be available on Sunday. And we're talking to Sean McVay today. He basically just said, look, it's a matter that's going to be kept in-house, and we're going to work through it as a team and as an organization. And that's pretty much the way he put it. And when you say something like that, it could be the fact that Cam Akers' days are numbered when it comes to his participation with the Los Angeles Rams in that offense.
So this isn't anything, and not that I would ask you to speculate, but maybe we can rule some things out. This isn't anything like mental health related or anything like that where, his head's not in the right space or anything like that. It's pretty much performance related and sort of how he's integrating into this offense right now.
Well, it mainly looks as though there may be some, who knows? I don't believe it's mental health, to answer your first question. But also, too, you never know what goes on behind the scenes as far as maybe the availability. He hasn't performed extremely well at all this season, really. And so that could be an issue as far as them wanting to have him do different things that he may not be accustomed to doing. There was a play during the Dallas Cowboys game where there was a gaping hole and he went right and he got stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey. Instead of paying attention to the holes that were opening up for him, he could have got an easy 20, 30-yard run. I've always said that I think that the number one back on this team should be Darrell Henderson Jr. They recently acquired Malcolm Brown to come back in the fold. And I think Malcolm Brown could be the number 2 guy, and then Cam Akers possibly a number 3 guy. But they're going to have to figure it out rather quickly. Fortunately, they have the limping Carolina Panthers coming into town. So I think that when you have that type of schedule and then you go into the bye, I think there's going to be a lot of different things going on during this bye as it pertains to what decisions are going to be made moving forward with this Rams team, especially with the offense. And again, Cam Akers' key card may not be able to be working as we move forward.
Talking with Nick Hamilton, Sirius XM Radio does a great job with them. Also, you can check them out with Nightcast Media. So can I just say this? It's rightfully so that people are critical of Cam Akers and saying, he hasn't performed to expectations. But you can look at this entire roster and pick a lot of guys that aren't performing to expectations. It's not Cam Akers' fault that this team looks like it's basically sleepwalking through the first 5 games of the season. So aside from turning the attention at Akers, again, who rightfully so has not played well through the first 5 games of the year, and now apparently he's sent home, and who knows if he'll ever be back. At the same time, there's a lot of guys on this team right now that aren't performing to expectations. I mean, we always hear the term Super Bowl hangover. I mean, this seems like the epitome of that.
Yeah, it definitely appears that way, especially when you look at the last 5 games and how they've been able to acquire wins. And their wins have not been very notable or something that has been outrageously spectacular. I think the Rams also, too, is mental as well, not just with the injuries that they've been dealing with on the offensive line. Obviously, they have the 2 veteran guys on the edge, but on the interior O-line, there's a lot of second and third string guys due to injury. So I think that's also going to be a problem because if you can't protect the quarterback, Matthew Stafford cannot have enough time to get the ball off to his proper target. But also, too, I think from a mental standpoint, I think the Rams are not used to being the hunted. They're used to being the hunters. They're used to being the underdog. And a lot of times, if you don't shift your mentality to realize, okay, you have a giant bullseye on your back. You are the defending Super Bowl champion. Everyone's going to get a stripe off of you like they were Adidas. So you got to make sure that you are focused, you are locked in. Obviously, you can't escape injuries, unfortunately, but you have to be able to sustain yourself and make sure that you can capitalize on the things that you do have. And one big problem is we have not seen really a major portion of Allen Robinson. Because this is the guy that they paid $30 million for the next 2 seasons. And he has been yet to truly ingratiate himself into the offense and really be that big-time, over-the-top wide receiver that they've been looking for. So that's also been a problem. Some of it you can say that's due to chemistry, but I think a lot of it, too, is Matthew Stafford sometimes gets one-dimensional, meaning he's so used to going to Cooper Kupp or to Tyler Higbee. But you also have to remember there's Allen Robinson here. Allen Robinson was brought to be an over-the-top back, a big-time wide receiver, rather, that can go over the top and be able to make certain plays to keep drives going. This is one of the reasons why you brought him to Los Angeles. So why not take full advantage of him? So that's also been another mystery as far as getting him, like I said, more ingratiated in the offense and being able to just be that type of player that you can look forward to and have some depth at the wide receiver for. Also, they have not had Van Jefferson, who's used to being out there as a number 3 guy that can really stretch the field for you as well. So they've been without Van Jefferson, and there's a lot of other factors involved as well. But those are the key factors that have really been noticeable within the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, and look, you'd like to think that if there was a week they could get right, it would be this one at home against Carolina after they just fired their head coach. But who knows? It's certainly a game from a betting standpoint that I would stay away from, given the way both of these teams have performed through the first 5 weeks of the season. Spending some time on the show tonight with Nick Hamilton, Sirius XM radio host, also the founder of Nightcast Media, joins us here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I'm fascinated by the Lakers. And I know the Clippers are obviously, a lot of people think they're going to be the better of the 2 teams, which, look, if everybody's healthy, they certainly should be. But I am fascinated by the combination of the new head coach in Darvin Ham, a first-time head coach with all of these egos and personalities coming off of the type of season they did last year. I mean, this thing sets up to be, the perfect made-for-TV drama of 82 games of basketball. Where do you think it all shakes out when it comes to the Lakers in 22-23?
Well, you know what? I can't wait to watch this 30 for 30 on this team in 10 years because This, like you said, it is must-see TV. It is must-see, attention-grabbing digital content. Darvin Ham, I think, I think he's going to be a really phenomenal head coach. I just don't know how successful he's going to be in the next couple of years with this cast of characters, meaning LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Pat Beverly, and then Russell Westbrook, who we recently saw when Pat Beverly was trying to rally the troops, I believe, in the third quarter. He was trying to get everybody on the same defensive page, and Russell Westbrook is seen going away like, yeah, man, I got this, whatever. And then he has the cockamamie story later on the next day saying that, I was getting an understanding from one of the coaches. Okay, well, you got an understanding from the coaches. Does that still require you to stay away from the other four guys as Pat Beverly's trying to wave you over so you guys can all be on the same page? No. And you wonder why people go after Russell Westbrook the way they do, because a lot of stuff he wants to play victim to, but a lot of stuff he causes on himself because he comes off like a jerk. I'm not saying the man is a jerk, but he comes off that way. And he rubs people the wrong way. Even the fan base, as we noticed last season, the way the fan base turned on him because the way he treated not only the fans and the things that he said nonchalantly about the fans, but also how he treated the LA media as well. So a lot of factors are going to have to go into play for this team to be somewhat successful and make the playoffs beyond the play-in tournament. And so I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. First of all, health is a huge concern. Like I've said time and time again, the glue to this team is not LeBron James or Patrick Beverly or even Russell Westbrook for that matter. The glue is the health and safety of Anthony Davis. How many games can Anthony Davis give you? If Anthony Davis can play at least 70 games, this team has a nice chance of making the playoffs, at least making a solid show up in the first round. But if he's unable to play at least 70 games, you're going to be in serious trouble. If LeBron James goes down for any godforsaken reason, that's going to put you even further behind the eight ball, which is more likely to happen, unfortunately. So I think this is a 40 to 42 win team this year. I think they're a play-in tournament team, and then I think that's it for this team, unfortunately.
Last one before I let you go on the Clippers. Obviously, high expectations for this franchise and this team this year. You know, with both George and Kawhi healthy, there's the thought that this can obviously be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league and compete for an NBA title. If there's one thing that brings them down, what is it?
Health. I think that's the one thing that brings them down is health. Kawhi Leonard, John Wall, Paul George, if any of those guys or a combination of those guys are injured for a significant period of time, that makes the Clippers' opportunity start to dwindle as far as making at least the Western Conference Finals, if not the NBA Finals. So I think these guys are going to have to be healthy. I think you're going to have to be able to adjust, especially with Kawhi Leonard not being available on back-to-back nights. That's going to be an adjustment that everybody's going to have to start to shore up the load, especially John Wall because he's the newest member of the team. He's a new kid on the block. But I think if they can maintain their health, escape the season without any major injuries, I think this is the team to beat. Besides the Golden State Warriors, this is one of the deepest Clipper teams we've seen in recent memory. I think Ty Lue has done a fantastic job, not only with his coaching staff, but to be able to have guys buy in, especially John Wall to buy in so soon. And John Wall, like he told us during media day, he has a chip on his shoulder. He has something he knows he has to prove, and he's willing to prove it each and every night on that floor within the 94 feet. And if they're able to do that, along with getting that second unit on the same page, this is going to be a very dangerous, scary Los Angeles Clippers team. And there could be an opportunity for them to go to the NBA Finals.
It's not often we talk about competitions for comeback player of the year, but John Wall and Zion Williamson, that's pretty good competition for that award. Nick Hamilton, Nightcast Media founder, also the host at Sirius XM Radio, my old stomping grounds. Listen, this was fun. I could have done this for another 20 minutes. Thanks a lot, and hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Absolutely, Jason. Anything for you, my man. Anything for you. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. Nick Hamilton joining us on the show. All right, we'll come back, update you on the Dodgers and Padres, wrap up this hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Do, 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 do. Oh, my hunches were not on in Dallas tonight. 97 freak. I don't know. Yes, we are. Rolling along this Friday edition of the Cash In. Thanks to Nick Hamilton for stopping by, giving us some thoughts on the LA sports scene. I think we hit it all. We didn't get to the Chargers, but that's all right. 2-1 Padres lead the Dodgers as they play in the bottom of the fifth. Actually, they just wrapped up the bottom of the fifth, so they're going to the top of the sixth at Petco. I'll tell you what, Dodgers, if they lose this game, they only have themselves to look at. They had second and third, nobody out in the top of the fifth, only came away with one run. And if they lose this game, they're going to look back at that inning as the likely reason why they didn't get across the finish line in this game. I mean, runs are obviously at a premium when you talk about these two teams in this game. 1-800-224-2004 is the number, 800-224-2004. Hey, if you haven't done it yet, go and sign up for Jock Market. JockMKT.com. It's like the stock market, only with athletes. We love it here at the Cash In. I've been playing with it. It's a lot of fun. Instead of going and, building out an entire fantasy lineup, how about if you just like one particular player in a game? You buy stock in that player, and then all of a sudden, you get some shares in him. If he does really well, you win money. It's as simple as that. And right now, claim your 100% deposit bonus with JockMKT.com. Just use the promo code CASHIN. We're back with another hour of the Cash In. And I'm Jason Page. Thanks for being with us on SportsMap Radio. Know where that piece of my ear thing went. I'm gonna find it when I least expect it.
Like when we vacuum and then we find it inside a suction thing.
Hold on, that would suck.
Yeah, because that would be very dirty.
Yeah. That piece I have on my ear is not the greatest.
Where's the one with the fob?
know Vlad, that's what it sucks. It's like I can't even go to him on the air. He's not even paying attention to the show.
Okay. I actually already starting to feel better.
Oh, really?
Lying down that much. Yeah.
Good.
By after tomorrow, I should be right at home. Yeah, yeah.
He's like, Mom, pay attention. Hey! All right, let's start another hour right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Pleasure to have you with us. The telephone number is 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter, you can find me at the back page. Again, hit me up there on Twitter. At the back page, if there's anything you want to opine on. An hour from now, well, a little over an hour from now, Page's Picks, Week 6 edition. We're 10 and 11 on the air. We're going to try and rectify that this week. Yeah, I think it's another tough week to pick games, though. I got to be honest. I mean, usually I can find a couple of games that feel like easy winners, and I can't find that right now. But we'll see what we can do. Again, 800-224-2004 on Twitter at the back page. The baseball game is still 2-1. Padres on top of the Dodgers. Blake Snell out after 5 1/3 innings. Padres turn to their bullpen now. Justin Turner at the plate, runner on second, and 1 out in that game. So game 3, a barn burner in San Diego at Petco Park as the Padres try to take a 2-1 series lead. Tomorrow you will get 3 more games, Braves and Phillies, with the Phillies trying to close that series out up 2-1 after a blowout win in Philadelphia on Friday. Astros and the Mariners with game 3 in Seattle, and that place will be up for grabs. First playoff game there in like 20-plus years. George Kirby tasked with trying to keep the season alive for the Mariners, down 2-0 in that best-of-5 series. And then the Yankees and Guardians, and we'll get into the playoff baseball here coming up in a couple of minutes, but the Yankees really struggling to find offense on Friday. And what is going on with Aaron Judge? From MVP to LVP. You can figure out what the L stands for. We'll get to that coming up in a couple. They were booing him at Yankee Stadium today. Not huge numbers, but there were numbers of people booing Aaron Judge. We'll tell you why. Talk about the playoff baseball as we continue. With this hour of the Cash-In, I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Gold, Jerry Gold. Mm-hmm. 12 minutes past the hour. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. playoff baseball, the order of the night. Watching the Padres and the Dodgers in my rear view mirror. 2-1 Padres on top of the Dodgers as they go to the bottom of the sixth at Petco in San Diego. Right now, the Dodgers plus 225 on the money line. The Padres minus 320. I would not touch it at this point. Now you're into the bullpens. Tight game. One pitch changes everything. If anything, I'd probably, if I was leaning anywhere, it'd be the Dodgers plus 1.5. But you got to pay some juice on that at minus 205. Maybe the under is the bet if you're doing some live betting right now at 5.5. Can you see 3 more runs being scored in this game? I can't. So if I was leaning somewhere, I'd probably be looking at the Dodgers at plus 1.5 or the under 5.5 on the live betting. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Aaron Judge has been about as bad as you can be through 18 innings of postseason play. I mean, he can't touch the ball. I think he's like 0 for 9 with 7 strikeouts or 0 for 8 with a walk and 7 strikeouts. He made contact today, at which point I would have probably cheered wildly if I was a Yankee fan. Well, I am a Yankee fan, so I guess that's not fair. But right now, Aaron Judge, he just can't seem to find anything at the plate. And look, I've never played baseball at the level of an Aaron Judge. I played in high school and stuff like that. But you can't. I think every player's different, and I think the layoff could be something that's impacting him. You're talking about a guy that hit 311, 312 this year. And yeah, he does strike out some. So you expect that. But right now, he's just non-competitive at the plate. And the Yankees are going to have a hard time winning this series if this is the Aaron Judge they get for the next 2 or 3 games of the series. They asked him after the game today if he heard the boos.
Aaron, no one said this challenge would be easy. You guys head to Cleveland now for games 3 and 4. How do you expect this Yankees club to respond?
Just like we have all year. We've hit adversity, throughout this whole long season on our way to winning the division. So this isn't anything new to us, and we got the guys in this room to go out there and finish this job. So just about relying on each other. Have a little short-term memory here on this, and get ready for the next game tomorrow. So
that's him talking about the rest of the series. But he was asked about the boos too. And he said, look, he gave a pretty good answer as to how you respond to that sort of situation when you're playing the way that he's playing. Asking him if he's surprised to hear the boos.
Not at all. It happens. Like I said, it's happened many a times through my career here, and there's nothing I can do. I got to play better. That's what it comes down to. Didn't do the job tonight. Especially as a leadoff hitter, man, I got to get on base. I got to make something happen on the base path, and I didn't do that tonight.
So there you go, Aaron Judge, giving you a little bit of a breakdown in terms of the fact that he's got to play better. He's still he's still the MVP. None of this impacts any of that. But if you have the kind of season he had, and then you go down swinging in the postseason without anything to show for it, it makes the whole contract situation extremely complicated. Look, he's going to get the money from somebody, but if you're the Yankees and you go out in the first round, let's just say Armageddon for the Yankees. They go out in the first round of the series. They lose in 4 or 5 to the Indians, and Judge has, 1 hit in 22 at bats and strikes out 15 times. Well, as the Yankees, as an organization, you see that and you start to wonder, is this a guy that could perform in the postseason when it matters? And I know it's just one postseason of many that the Yankees have been in with Aaron Judge, but it's got to give them pause. It shouldn't, but it's going to. rightly or wrongly. Anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. He's played, look, I think the home games and the expectations on him in the home games, especially when he was chasing 60, then 61, then 62, I think the expectations definitely wore on him. And I think there's some hangover from that at home. But at the same time, I've watched him on the road. He's been much smarter at the plate, more disciplined at the plate, and just flat out a better hitter over the last month or so when he's playing on the road. And I don't know if that's a good thing, for the rest of this postseason, even if the Yankees continue to advance, but it seems like it would bode well for him in Cleveland to not have the weight of the home fans' expectations thrust upon him. He says all the right things, but it's got to be wearing on him. And these first two games have certainly not helped. All right, so that's the Yankees and the Guardians. I almost did it again. Tied at 1 game apiece. Mariners and the Astros, look, the Mariners are gasping for life right now after the way they've lost the last 2 games. Basically, Yordan Alvarez has dashed their postseason hopes before they even got back to Seattle for this first playoff game in 21 years. T-Mobile Park's going to be up for grabs for that game tomorrow, but it might be the only game they play after Scott Servais basically ran his team out of the postseason with decisions to pitch to Yordan Alvarez in Game 1 with Robbie Ray, a lefty, when Alvarez is better against lefties, and then again in Game 2 with just a runner on first and 2 outs in a 2-1 lead, and decides again with Luis Castillo, who's a great pitcher, but still decides, yeah, you know what, we're gonna pitch to Yordan Alvarez, who basically destroys anything he makes contact with. And now Houston finds itself up 2-0, looking to advance to the ALCS. The Phillies have just looked better than the Braves. I mean, there's just no getting around it. And with what I saw today, and I get it, momentum is good as your next day's starting pitcher, and Noah Syndergaard will be that pitcher for the Phillies, who's, Syndergaard's probably been waiting for this opportunity for a while. Be able to pitch in a big spot. He's going to get a chance to do it tomorrow in a closeout game, potentially, against the Braves. That's the leadoff game of the day. 2:08 p.m. Eastern, first pitch for the Phillies and the Braves. And boy, those fans in Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park, they were nuts into it from the get-go. I got to say, I'm surprised with the Phillies. I'll take a hit on this. Phillies were not playing great baseball coming into this postseason. If you had told me to look at a team that was a potential dark horse to make a run, they would not have been the team that I would go. But ultimately, they have certainly congealed at the right time of the year. You want to be playing your best baseball come, October. And the Phillies right now just look like a team that's playing their best baseball of the year at the right time. And you know what? Kudos and congratulations to Rob Thompson, who's been given the full-time managerial tag there. The interim tag has been taken off. He was a former Yankee bench coach. He's a 50-something guy and gets this opportunity now with the Philadelphia Phillies to lead this team for the next few years. He gets a 3-year deal, I believe it is, and a lot of people around baseball are happy for him, and that includes me because I watched him with so many good Yankee teams for so many years as a coach as well. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. We'll do Paige's picks in the next hour to start the 9 p.m. Pacific hour, so we'll have your weekly dose of picks. They've already been made. They're cooking up right now as we speak. Week 6, we're 10-11 on the air. We're going to try and do better this week. We have not been good over the first 5 weeks of the season. I always say, in the NFL, you kind of start to figure out what you are at the third way of the season, 1/3 in, and maybe we'll find out what we are with Paige's picks after this week. Maybe we have a big week and start to turn it around. We'll have to see. But 10-11 on the season so far. We'll see what we do. Nick Ferguson comes up later this hour. He'll join us 18 minutes from now, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, former NFL defensive back. Get some thoughts with him on what is going on with the Denver Broncos, the mess that is Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett and company. When we continue, though, I want to talk about this story today about a potential managerial hire in Texas with the Rangers. One of the candidates that just was interviewed is one that would shock me if he wound up getting the job. Not even if he gets the job, if he decided to accept the job. I want to get to that. And I saw something today that I said, I got to talk about this on the show tonight because I am a fast foodie. I love fast food more than anybody. The LA Times has ranked the top 23 best fast food burgers in America. Who's at the top of the list and who's at the bottom? I want you guys to tell me, what is your favorite fast food burger? Hit me up on Twitter at the back page and let me know. On Twitter at the back page, what is your favorite chain fast food burger? We'll see if it matches up with the list we got from the LA Times coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In from SportsMap Radio. Wilder Hellenius tomorrow night. Fox Sports pay-per-view. Premier Boxing Champions. Go get it. Nothing like a good heavyweight fight. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter at The Back Page. Nick Ferguson coming up. We'll talk with him in about 13 minutes, get some thoughts on the Denver Broncos, the mess that is the Denver Broncos. Maybe talk some defense with him, too, because there's a couple teams right now that I've sort of got in my crosshairs in a good way. Teams that are, potentially Super Bowl contenders for me, just because of how good they've been defensively. Talk about what makes them so good. Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, will join us coming up about 12 minutes from now. All right, look, I got to cover, a couple of different incarnations of the Giants when I was doing sports radio in the Bay Area, and Bruce Mochi was the manager for those Giants teams. I can't for the life of me figure out if Bruce Mochi is serious about taking this this Texas Rangers opening. Chris Young is the general manager of the Texas Rangers. And he says the process of finding a new manager for the team is going to take about 3 to 4 weeks. Bruce Mochi is somebody that is a candidate, according to Chris Young. He met with the former Giants manager. Bochy's kind of semi-retired. When he left the Giants, a lot of people thought, he was just sort of burned out and wanted to take a break, but there was a possibility he would eventually come back to managing. Matter of fact, let me ask my digital producer here. Hey, Google, how old is Bruce Mochi? Wait for it. He's 67 years old. Now, I get, we look at the Dusty Bakers and, the Giants offered Tony La Russa an opportunity. Hey, Google, stop. I don't need to hear you anymore. We're done. As much as you might want to think that...
Stopping Google.
Google, stop talking in the background. I know a lot of people... with Buck Showalter and the success the Mets had getting back to the postseason, with what Dusty Baker accomplished with the Houston Astros. Obviously, there's some teams out there that certainly are capable of doing some things, with older managers. I don't think the Texas Rangers, I don't think this is the right fit. I really don't. I don't think the Rangers are the right fit at all when you talk about potential teams to go with an older manager. This is a young team. This is a team that is, filled with a lot of good, young, talented players. And I know they went out and made some free agent moves, the Corey Seagers of the world, the Marcus Simeons of the world. And I know when you go and get that type of high-priced talent, you're expecting a return. But Bruce Mochi at 67 to come and manage this team, you can't find a good, young, up-and-coming manager that could connect with these younger players and sort of build this thing for the long term. Let's be honest about something. Let's look at the American League West. Houston, obviously very good and will be for a while. Seattle, young, going to be good for a long time. Now you start talking to me about this Texas Rangers team, which you can argue is the third best team of four, and that's just because the Oakland A's right now are a dumpster fire who don't know where they're going to be playing their games. Are they potentially going to wind up in Las Vegas or somewhere else? Who knows? But to me, the idea of Bruce Bochy as the right guy for this job, this is a 3-year project probably. At 67, if you're Bruce Bochy, are you hanging around until you're 70 just to see what the potential windfall is from nurturing this young, up-and-coming roster? No. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's so much that has to be done here. And I get it. Look, look how long it took for the Orioles to finally get it turned in the right direction. Detroit is still struggling to get it figured out. Kansas City, after their World Series, went into the tank. It's difficult. When you've been bad for a long time, it's tough to get it turned around. And yeah, the Seager and Simeon moves were nice. And Josh Young is a nice player that could potentially pay some dividends, but this thing's going to take time. Bruce Bochy isn't the kind of guy that's going to wait for 3 years, or why would you even want to pay a manager that much to hang around for a few years in the hopes that you're good when he's 70? The move just doesn't make any sense. I get maybe you're doing your due diligence and you got to talk to him. Aside from that, I can't understand why he would be in the mix. Cannot figure it out. And I love Bruce Bochy. I think he's a fantastic manager. If you're a ready-made team, if you're saying Bruce Bochy to, say, the White Sox, which if healthy is a team that can certainly compete for a division title next year, then I get it. But if you're telling me Bruce Bochy for Texas, I say absolutely not. Doesn't make any sense. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. What is the best, and I mean the best, fast food burger in all the land? Now, granted, I haven't tried every one on this list, so I can't agree or disagree. I've had my fair share of fast food burgers. If you look at me, you could probably figure that out. But let me give you the worst 5 on the list, and then I'll give you the top 5 on the list. You guys can tell me what you think on Twitter at the back page. Burger King is number 23. They are dead last for fast food burgers. Jollibee is 22, second to worst. Wiener Schnitzel, oh, they're awful. I do like their chili cheese dogs, though. Wiener Schnitzel is number 21 on the list for best hot dogs. Sonic is number 20, and I have to admit that surprises me a bit. I thought Sonic would be a little higher on this list. And Rally's rounds out the bottom 5. Rally's is number 19 on the list of the worst burgers. Now, who's in the top 5? All right, I'll give you that. Number 5, no doubter here. In-N-Out. That's easy. Value. The double-double, oh, give me that all day. I don't think their fries are worth all that much, but In-N-Out, number 5 on the list for the best burgers, according to the LA Times. And by the way, kudos to the author on this because he must have had clogged arteries by the time he got finished with this. Lucas Quan Peterson. Kudos to Lucas Quan Peterson because he took a bullet for all of us. Number 5 is In-N-Out. Number 4 is McDonald's. Just had a double quarter pounder tonight. It's hard to argue with it. You feel disgusting and want to you want to go get counseling after you eat a double quarter pounder, but it's so good when you're eating it. Number 3 is Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. I've never heard of it. Supposedly it's quickly growing. It's a Wichita, Kansas-based chain. I can't wait till they get to California. Let's get them here. The Freddy's Original Double is the recommended burger. Number 2 may shock you. Number 2 on the list is Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. I don't know if have I ever had Carl's Jr.? I'm not sure if I have. And they're worldwide, by the way. They have I travel to Singapore. It's where my partner's from. We have a home there. They have Carl's Jr. in Singapore, so you know it's good. The Double Western Bacon Cheeseburger is number 2 on the list. Number 1, oh, if you're in LA, you know it. Fat Burger, number 1 on the list. The recommended burger is just that, the Fat Burger. Let's talk some football with Nick Ferguson of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He joins us on the other side. It's the Cash In. We talk about everything. SportsMap Radio on the SportsMap Radio app. for all the noise. No, I just had a sip. The ginger ale? Yeah. Of course. I love ginger ale. Huh?
You don't ever buy it.
No.
But this is an extra golden, a bit of a zing effect, which I'm not particularly fond of.
Oh, I feel it in the back. Yeah. All right. There he is.
Hello.
Yo.
Hold on well, let me fix one little thing.
Sure.
There we go. There we go. Now we're cooking with grease.
What are you up to tonight?
Just helping my son with some vocabulary words.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man.
Tell him to read the newspaper.
Yeah.
It's the best way to improve your vocabulary is I'm serious, man. Read the newspaper. That's what I did when I was a kid. That's how I got my vocabulary. It was all from reading. I used to read the New York Times when I was like 10.
Wow. Look at you, fancy pants.
No, not fancy. Not fancy. Just it was the only way I could learn because I hated school.
Oh, okay. See, he
Good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. Oh, let's just say it. The Broncos are a dumpster fire already. I mean, man alive. Keeping you up to date on the baseball. We'll talk with Nick Ferguson here in a second. Dodgers trailing the Padres 2-1 as they go to the bottom of the seventh at Petco. 2-1 Padres. Dodgers had their chance in this game. Second and third, nobody out. In the fifth, they get just one. And if they go down 2-1 in this series, that's the one they're going to look at. Make no mistake about it. But they got Mookie Betts coming up when they come back up in the eighth, assuming they're still down 2-1 at that point. Or did he just make the final out? I think he just did. So anyway, we'll keep you posted on that as we continue to move through the hour and through the show. Page's Picks coming up in about 25, 30 minutes from now. Get some picks for you, Week 6 style. Nick Ferguson joins us, one of my favorite football guys to talk to, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. Did you play baseball at all growing up? Were you a baseball guy?
No, man, we didn't play baseball in my neighborhood. That was too expensive for us, man. That was entirely too expensive. It was just basketball and football.
Basketball and football, that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I ran track a little, and I wrestled for, I guess, a short period of time in high school. But these were kind of sports that were more cost effective, if you will. So that's why I had to participate in those sports.
Former NFL DB Nick Ferguson giving us some time. Former NFL safety, I should say, giving us some time here on the show. All right, am I off base calling the Broncos a dumpster fire right now? Because it sure feels that way through 5 weeks.
Well, listen, man, I can't be mad at you if you decided to call him a dumpster fire because the expectations are really high for this team, and they have yet to meet those expectations yet. And listen, we know how this works. When expectations are high and players and coaches fail to reach those expectations, then the boos start, which we've seen here in Empire Field, and both local and national media have talked about, using that term washed when it comes to Russell Wilson. And the question comes up as well, is Nathaniel Hackett the guy? So you're not wrong in feeling the way that you do. Now, I feel as though the team can right the ship, but it's going to take a lot of commitment on their part, Jason, for that to happen.
I know you're a team guy. You come from this world. You've been in locker rooms. You've been in this situation where a team struggles. So I know it's not going to be like you to cast blame, but I'm still going to ask you, I mean, is there one place to blame, or is it just plenty of blame to go around when you look at what's happened on the offensive side of the ball? Because defensively, there's no question this team can compete at a high level. But, I mean, the offense is so short of expectations. While I can look at Denver and say their defense is every bit as good as, say, a San Francisco or a Dallas, they're just not competitive enough on the offensive end consistently to be able to take them seriously right now.
Well, you're absolutely right. And if you are looking for blame in these cases, that's what usually happens. Finger pointing, who's to blame for the offensive woes? I mean, there's enough, blame to go around for a lot of players and the coaches as well. I mean, for the coaches, it's their job to get the players and put them in the right position to really accentuate their skill set. It's up to the players to go out there and execute. So I can't blame Nathaniel Hackett when a guy jumps offside. There's illegal formation or guys dropping balls. That's not him. Those are the players. Now, when it comes to the coaching, it is in-game management, clock management, deciding, hey, should we go for 4th and 1? And if we do, are we going to run the ball? Or are we going to pass the ball? And what happens is it seems as though all of these things are happening all at once. Someone jumps offside, someone fumbles the ball, a bad call here, a bad call there. And when you look at the Broncos offense, I think they're around 8 in the league as far as explosive plays, but they are awful in categories that you need your offense to do well. Case in point, penalties, the Broncos are 31st. Red zone, the Broncos are 21st. When it comes to third down production, the Broncos are 30th. So those are the problems that the Broncos are having. And for me, I'm a very optimistic person, regardless of what I hear people say both nationally and locally. If they're able to fix those issues, which they can, then a lot of this negativity goes away.
At what point, though, and we're talking with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, who does a great job with his own podcast, which is called the Touchdown Denver podcast. At what point does it sort of get to a situation where, I make the argument that, we're at that point in the season. After this week, you're 6 games in. And I think it gets safer to say that you are what you are at that point. And I know some people will say, well, maybe it needs a little more time. New quarterback, new head coach. They don't play a ton in the preseason. But I think it's fair that after 6 weeks, you could start casting aspersions as to what a team is and what a team isn't. At what point in the season do even the players start to think along the lines of, all right, this is kind of what we are. I've used a line before, and I know you've gotten on me when I say it. Teams don't know they suck early on. The team, that's true, and you've given me crap when I've said it, and because professional athletes think differently, but I don't think, some teams early on in the year, the Texans don't know they're bad. It takes them 3 or 4 weeks of getting their what's kicked around before they could figure out we're not very good. The Steelers kind of buy in, hey, we got to win in week 1, maybe we're not that bad, before they realize after week 5, oh, we're 1-4, we suck. Where does it start to kick in for players that, all right, this isn't working, and doubt starts to creep in?
Well, usually that takes place maybe like week 8 or week 9, because now the season is kind of winding down and teams are really trying to solidify their playoff position. But right now, I mean, you could say majority of the league is still in the conversation unless you're one of those 1-4, 1-3 teams in the league. Right now, you look at the NFC West. Right now, San Francisco is ahead of the league 3-2. Everyone else is 2-3. So they all feel as though they have an opportunity. Look in the AFC West with the Broncos. The Chiefs are 4-1, and the Chargers are 3-2. The Broncos are 2-2. They're thinking, okay, if we win this weekend on Monday Night Football, now we are 3-3. We're basically tied with the Chargers, and the Raiders are just kind of, the Raiders at 1-4. So you still have that belief because it's early on that you can make a run because no one has really kind of expanded their lead. Now, there's a couple of teams out there. I think one, and maybe Philadelphia, is the only remaining undefeated team, and that can change this weekend. But that's why players have that belief. They look at the record. They look at the record of the teams in their division, and they say, hey, listen, we are still in it, and we're not out of it until we're out of it. And usually, once again, it is week 8 or week 9 where teams really try to solidify themselves and separate and try to get those top playoff positions.
Let me focus on it from a Nathaniel Hackett standpoint. Is it too soon to say that, at some point when, again, you're just 2-3, I get it. If you win this week, you're a 500 team. And that's why I think this week is so pivotal, because there's so many 2-3 and 3-2 teams that after this week, you're going to start to figure out, all right, we're 4-2 or we're 2-4. Where's this thing going? In terms of, and I don't want to say losing a locker room because it's such a dramatic way to phrase it, but at what point do guys in that locker room start to look around and say, maybe this isn't the right guy for this role, whether it's the play calling, whether it's the in-game management that we've talked about? Again, how long does that take? Or are you still talking week 8, week 9 before guys start to feel that way?
Well, guys are human, and you're going to have a couple of guys who are probably already feeling that way. But I can tell you this, the majority of the guys in that locker room, they surely don't. They know that they are hitting someone on a rough skid, but they look at the defense and say that the defense is playing well. And that's kind of the big thing, Jason. If both sides of your ball, or like you said, suck, then obviously that, hey, there's no opportunity. But your defense is playing great football, and they kept the offense in and giving you an opportunity to win football games. So the idea is that if we fix this side of the ball, we now have a chance. But there are going to be a couple of players who are going to be a little disgruntled because guess what? They're going to feel as though they're not getting their carries. They're not getting their touches. But for the most part, a lot of the guys on the Broncos team, they still love, Nathaniel Hackett and what he's bringing to the team. And unlike national media, they still look at Russell as a person who's leading their team, and they're gonna follow him to wherever he takes them.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you were talking about the third down conversions, and I was talking about it with Jen Mueller, who does a good job on the Seahawks pre- and post-game and stuff like that for Root Sports. And she was saying, they saw this last year in Seattle. The third down issues were there last year in Seattle, and a lot of people like to make excuses for Russell and say, it was the offensive line, it's this and that. But now they've seen it carry over into this year in Denver, which has people wondering, well, maybe it wasn't the situation in Seattle, maybe it's Russell.
Well, I'm not going to say that is the same. Both things are not equal, right? When you look at Seattle and what was going on, it was clear that their offensive line was very problematic. They had their running backs that were all banged up. And I don't care who the quarterback is, you're nothing without a good running game because that opens up play action. Now, fast forward to where we are right now in present time with Russell here, he's got a new offensive coordinator. In Seattle, that was a little different. There was some familiarity with the guys on that team. And then besides, also, let's be honest, that defense for Seattle wasn't that great. And as we look at quarterbacks and not just Russell, the best friend of a quarterback is not just a run game, it's a defense. Because if your defense can give you back the ball and give you extra possessions, you should be able to score. I go back to the Thursday night football game against the Colts, and that's the thing that had Broncos country frustrated, and it frustrated the heck out of me. You get 2 interceptions by Caden Stearns with decent field position, and the offense still can't move the ball, right? You can say that's a combination of Russell and Nathaniel Hackett, for whatever reason, not being on the same page, or the scheme itself is not accentuating, in my belief, Russell Wilson's skill set. So to me, that's why I feel as though they can weather this storm and they can come out the back end and smelling like roses, but it starts on Monday Night Football because you're right. It does come to a point where it's time to put up or shut up. And right now, that time is coming really quickly for the Broncos and the thing happened.
Great job as always, Nick Ferguson. I wish I wasn't out of time because I was going to ask you about what we're seeing on the defensive side of the ball from teams like the Cowboys and 49ers, who I think are legit Super Bowl contenders right now because both of those defenses are just all out of this world. I'll have to get you on that next time. Nick Ferguson does a great job. He's the host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, one of my favorite guys to talk NFL with, even if he probably thinks I'm a jerk for saying that teams don't know they suck early in the season. My man, it's always good to talk to you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk down the line.
All right, talk down the line.
I love him. Nick Ferguson does a terrific job. The things we talk about before we get on the air, I called up Nick to get him on the show, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing like vocabulary lessons with my son. I was like, this is great. What a great dad. And that's awesome. I said everything I learned vocabulary-wise was from reading the New York Times as a kid or the New Haven Register or USA Today. I always read newspapers. Every Sunday morning we'd go and get newspapers. And everything I learned from a vocabulary standpoint came there. I hated school. So I was terrible at studying and doing my homework and all that stuff. All I wanted to do when I was in school as a kid was play sports, date girls, and play video games. That was my three right there. That was the three things I did. now I do one of them a little. Let's play sports. That's about it. And I get to talk about it for a living. 800-224-2004 on Twitter at the back page. We'll come back, tell you what's going on with the Padres and the Dodgers. They're in the top of the eighth inning at Petco. We'll wrap up this hour next on SportsMap Radio. All right, so we're doing Paige's picks to start next hour. You remember the music and all that stuff, right? All right. Just listen for my cue. It's Friday. Hello, Americans. It's Friday. All right, top of the 8th at Petco Park with the Padres leading the Dodgers 2-1. Runner on first, one out. Wow. Whole lot of drama going on in this game. With the Padres trying to hang on and take a 2-1 series lead. Potential to wrap this series up tomorrow for San Diego and knock out the 111-win Los Angeles Dodgers. Who I have to, again, I'll say it. They've looked very ordinary to me in these two games. And I get it. You know, the regular season of baseball can be sort of a drag, and it's teams that are, you know, teams rarely keep their foot on the gas pedal for 162 games, and that probably is part of what differentiates the Dodgers from a lot of teams, aside from the fact they obviously have a talented roster and a huge payroll, well-spent money. But ultimately, you know, the difference between 111 wins and 99 wins is just not giving away at bats in some of those games in the middle of June and July when the season's sort of dragging on. We'll get more into this in the next hour of the show. Page's picks coming up in the next hour as well. Stick around for that. We'll see if I can do a little bit better than I have over the first 5 weeks of the season. I am 10 and 11 on the season. Sorry, 10 and 11. We picked one extra game than the usual 4 games that we pick. So Page's picks coming up to start the next hour of the show. Rejection in front of 17,000 people. What does that look like? We'll talk about it. And are people watching playoff baseball? We'll talk about that too. SportsMap Radio. I'm Jason Page. Stay here. Final hour of a Friday/Saturday edition of the Cash In, SportsMap Radio, and the SportsMap Radio app. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it near the top of the show. Austin Rodriguez, our producer engineer tonight, working on the show from Houston, pushing all the buttons that keep us on the air. I need a new mic arm. This mic arm's just not cutting it. Don't worry, we got a lot to do in the final hour of the show for this week. We'll get to Paige's picks coming up in a couple of minutes. What does rejection feel like in front of 17,000 people? Oh. Listen, I think we're at the point where we've got to retire the proposal at like sporting events. We got to retire that thing. It's time to let it go, man. How many people are watching playoff baseball? Get into that a little bit. And Nick Hamilton, my conversation with the founder of Nightcast Media, host on SiriusXM, all things LA sports. That comes up later on in this hour, about 33 minutes from now. They go to the bottom of the eighth at Petco Park. The Dodgers just cannot score. They trail the Padres 2-1 as the Padres try to get some insurance going into the ninth. And I tell you, it's just amazing how ordinary great teams can look in the playoffs. Again, the Yankees today against the Guardians, the Braves, and how they've performed through 2 out of 3 games against the Phillies. And now the Dodgers about to potentially go down 2-1 in this best of 5 National League Divisional Series. How good you can be during the regular season. And then you're best against the best from other teams, and all of a sudden the playing field just gets a lot more even. I mean, is there any scenario by which this wouldn't be a colossal disappointment if the Dodgers were to lose this series? Man, some heads get lopped off if that's the case. We're back with more of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Hey. 12 minutes past the hour. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. The Twitter handle, @TheBackPage, if you want to hit me up on Twitter, @TheBackPage. 2-1 Padres on top of the Dodgers. We're keeping tabs on that. If you're interested in the live betting, it's kind of crazy right now to really put any money on a game that's in the top of the ninth because the juice is huge. The only play would be to take the Dodgers against Josh Hader in the top of the ninth, and it's kind of a sucker bet, considering the fact the Dodgers haven't been able to really do anything offensively in this game. They had second and third, nobody out in the fifth inning, and they got nothing. Plus 540 for the Dodgers on the money line going into the ninth inning against Josh Hader, trying to close it out, give the Padres a 2-1 series lead. Padres, for their luck, minus 950 on the money line. Not touching it. Okay. We'll do Page's picks in a minute. A little later on in the hour, we'll talk with Nick Hamilton, founder of Nightcast Media, the host on Sirius XM. All things LA sports with him coming up in about 27 minutes. How many people are watching these playoff games? We have some numbers on the wild card series that are kind of interesting. It seems like fans are definitely enjoying the 2 out of 3 wild card series, the best 2 out of 3 that we saw in the opening round. So it's good. It's encouraging for baseball. But, I mean, still in terms of overall numbers, nobody's watching. I mean, look, if you get like a Dodgers Yankees World Series, I think you'll get some sizable numbers. But outside of that, you're talking about World Series games pulling in 5s, 6s, 7s. When regular season NFL games are, 12s and 13s. I get it. Comparing the two is apples and oranges, different audiences and all that stuff. But it's still interesting to sort of get a sense for where these things are. Oh, Tom Brady got in trouble. I mean, the NFL screwed Atlanta so bad last weekend. Not only did their defensive player get flagged for an unnecessary roughness that was a horrendous call by all accounts, but then Tom Brady should have been flagged for kicking that defensive player as he was trying to get off of him. And the flag wasn't thrown for that. As a matter of fact, when I saw the flag thrown in that game, I thought that was the flag that was being thrown, that they were penalizing Brady for kicking him after the guy sacked him, Jarrett. I thought after Jarrett had sacked him, the flag thrown was for Brady kicking him. Turns out it was on Jarrett. And then the NFL says, oh, by the way, we're fining Tom Brady for kicking Jarrett. $11,000. Well, what about the flag that should have been thrown on that same play? Even if, worst case, okay, fine, it's offsetting penalties. Replay third down, and Atlanta still has a chance in that spot. Instead, what do you get? Falcons lose. Their season's basically done. And Tom Brady and the Buccaneers get gifted a win that Atlanta might have been able to steal late. Welcome to the NFL in 2022. All right, we are 10-11 on the season. We're going to try and do better this week. It's time for Page's Picks. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Chad Erickson, for the kind introduction. Week number 6 in the NFL. 10 wins, 11 losses. Do we get back above 500 this week? Let's find out. 1-3 last week. Disappointing. Game number 1 takes us to the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the Steelers are 1-4. They are just awful, and one of those teams that'll certainly be in the mix for a top 3, top 4 NFL pick when all is said and done. And this week, it doesn't get any easier for them. They're at home for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I get that the Buccaneers have been disappointing offensively, certainly uneven offensively. Last week, they had 21 points in the first half. They did nothing in the second half. I think this week is a week where they whoop it up, take some frustrations out on a bad Steelers team. Tampa Bay coming in at 3-2, 1-4 for the Steelers, who really might wind up being the worst team in the league alongside Houston. Well, I'm not talking about the spread. I'm looking at the total. 45.5 seems awful high when Kenny Pickett and this team have trouble scoring points, as we found out last week, against, granted, a good Bills team that had their ears pinned back the entire game coming after them. This time around, to me, it feels like a Tampa Bay win, 27-10, 27-7, 27-9. Even if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get to 30 in this game, you think Pittsburgh's scoring more than 14? Maybe garbage points? I have a hard time seeing it. Under 45.5 feels like a pretty easy pick in this one. Game number 1. Game 2. Giants at home. Nobody's giving the Giants respect. When we looked at this line yesterday, it was 5.5. Now the Giants at home against the Ravens is +6. Nobody believes in the Giants at 4-1. Everybody's still all in on the Ravens, even though they're 3-2, have blown 2 monumental leads, and Lamar Jackson has looked good. Some might even say he's looked great. Didn't look great tossing a ball up for grabs late. I'm still, look, you count me in the minority. I'm not a big Lamar Jackson guy. The Giants have been surprisingly good this year. I don't know if this thing is all the way turned around, but I'm staying with the Giants until they give me a reason not to. I love home underdogs. Anybody who knows anything about me, home underdog, better record. They're 4-1. Their one loss is a close one to another 4-1 team in Dallas. Daniel Jones seems like he's maturing in front of our eyes. Saquon Barkley's been good. Back to the old Barkley. Look, somebody's got to show me otherwise. The Giants at home +6 feels like a good pick to me. Home underdogs love them, especially when they're 4-1. If the Ravens go in there and stomp them, then we'll know what the Giants really are, but it's hard not to take the home team in this spot. Giants at home +6 against the Ravens. Game number 2. Browns and the Patriots. Give Bill Belichick all the credit in the world. He's got this team 2-3. He's had Bailey Zapp basically in the last 2 games. I know the feeling around the Patriots right now is, Mac Jones. Oh, what will they do? What happens this week with Mac Jones sidelined? How much more can you get out of this team if you're Bill Belichick? Again, what he's done through the first 5 games is nothing short of fantastic. But Mac Jones making improvement, chance to play against the Browns. I don't think it really matters. I think Cleveland is the pick this week. At home, -2.5. Jacoby Brissett has been steady all season long. I love the way he's playing. I don't think it's getting enough publicity because of the Browns' record. But I'll take the Browns -2.5 at home. I do it with a little bit of trepidation. But give me the Browns this week. They can score points too. And I know that Bill Belichick knows Jacoby Brissett. So there is something to be said for that. I'll still take the Browns -2.5. Game number 3. All right, last game. Bills and Chiefs. I feel like you have to bet this game one way or the other just because it's going to be so much fun to watch. Who's going to win? I have no idea. I think they're that closely matched. I think it's a 3-point game either way. The one thing I do think there's going to be is a lot of points. 53.5 is the total. I think they're at 40 by halftime. So 53.5 is a cakewalk to me. They'll be at 40 by the half. You're going to see a lot of points in that game. It's probably my favorite pick of the week. That and the under in that Tampa Bay-Pittsburgh game at 45.5 are probably my two favorite picks of the week. Over 53.5, Bills and KC. Bills and the Chiefs in KC. Game number 4. My 4 picks for week 6. Page's picks in the NFL. Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh under 45.5. The Giants +6 at home against the Ravens. The Browns -2.5. At home against the Patriots, and over 53.5 in that Bills matchup with Kansas City in KC. Over 53.5. That's Page's picks. So we'll see how we do. We're 10-11 on the season. The Padres are 2-1 against the Dodgers. They just wrapped it up at Petco Park in San Diego. Padres beat the Dodgers 2-1, have a 2-1 series lead. We'll try to wrap it up tomorrow. Wow. Again, I don't know where you go if you're the Dodgers and you wind up losing in the first series of the postseason after 111 wins. Where do you go? We'll come back. Lots more to do in this hour of the show. Embarrassment in front of 17,000 people has me thinking it's time to retire one outdated tradition at sporting events. Who's watching the Wild Card series? We'll talk about that as well. And Jerry Jones responding to all the Daniel Snyder chatter around the NFL. That as we continue on the Cash In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. Did we win with Trent Grisham? So in that segment at 40, are you going to bring it back, and do I have to throw to the interview, or are you going to bring it back where I'm just tossing to to Nick Hamilton. Like the first question and stuff? Okay. 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 "27 minutes past the hour. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. How about Trent Grisham tonight? If you had him on the Jock MKT app, you were making cash. Jock MKT. It's like the stock market, only instead of trading stocks, you're buying and selling players. It's fantasy, but with a bit of a twist. You know, typical fantasy scoring is how it's done. But instead of, having to field an entire roster, an entire team, 2 quarterbacks, a running back, or a running back, 2 quarterback, whatever, all you can do, if you want to, you can buy one player. Let's say the Dodgers-Padres game tonight. You just loved one player more than any other. Well, you buy shares in that player. There's an IPO phase where you go through and put in a bid, see if you're see how high the stock goes before, trading and the game actually begins. You go in, get a player. Tonight, Trent Grisham wound up costing me $4.10. I had 2 shares in him, and guess what? He was the number 1 player of the night. You get $25 per share. Do the math. Making decent money. And you can buy as many shares as you want. I mean, your ability to earn through Jock MKT is unlimited. It's all based on how many shares you want to buy in a player. Obviously, better players will cost more. Manny Machado and Juan Soto are going to cost more than, say, Trent Grisham. But if you find that player, especially in baseball where, anybody 1 through 9 is capable of making some noise, bought a couple of shares in Trent Grisham, he wound up being the best player of the night. He was cheap to buy and wound up winning you some money because he was the number 1 overall fantasy player in that matchup between the Padres and Dodgers. Download the Jock MKT app right now. It's like Jock Market, stock market. Jock MKT is the name of the app. You can check it out on the web at jockmkt.com. And it gets better, because you're getting a 100% deposit bonus thanks to the cash-in. All you got to do, download the Jock MKT app, and on your first deposit, use the promo code CASHIN, CASHIN, and your first deposit up to $100, 100% match. How about that? You deposit 100, you get another 100. You got 200 to play with. Imagine how many shares you can buy in, say, Aaron Judge tomorrow, and he has a huge game. Not saying you should go get Aaron Judge, but if you wanted to, you could. Claim your 100% deposit bonus on the Jock MKT app by using my promo code CASHIN right now. Do it. I promise you will not regret it. It's a lot of fun. My partner, who doesn't even like sports, is playing it all the time. It's the Jock MKT app. Download it now here on the Cash In. And remember, use that 100% deposit bonus, the promo code on your first deposit, Cash In. Simple as that. One word, Cash In. All right. 2-1. The Padres beat the Dodgers, so they go up 2-1 in that series. They'll look for the win. Did I say that game was tomorrow? I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Let me see here. Game 4 in that series is Sunday. I had it as tonight. It is on Sunday. So the Padres will have a chance to wrap up that series on Sunday. Braves and Phillies tomorrow, 2:08 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Astros and Mariners in Seattle, 4:08 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Yankees and Guardians in Cleveland, 7:38 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. And there is talk that the Midges could be back in Cleveland. Remember when Jabba Chamberlain was pitching in the postseason and it was like the swarm of flies that flew around him, and some people would argue that it cost the Yankees that ill-timed loss in Cleveland. What was it, 20 years ago? God, it feels like it. Yep, well, The midges could be back tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. Couple of things before we get to Nick Hamilton coming up in 8 minutes, the founder of Nightcast Media and host on SiriusXM Radio. Can we retire the stadium proposal? Can we retire the marriage proposals at sporting events? Nobody wants to see some poor guy get his heart ripped out in front of 17,000 people. And that is precisely what happened to one man at an Islanders game this week. Oh, just awful. This guy gets up, people are videotaping, and in front of 17,000 people, he decides, I'm going to propose to the woman of my dreams. And what happens? They talk for a little bit after he proposes. By the way, he had his shirt off at a hockey game. I mean, really, you're a clown. But he had his shirt off at the hockey game, gets on one knee, takes out the ring, proposes. And at first you could see she's stunned. And then you could see she's uncomfortable. And then she leans in and has a conversation with him. And you could see at that point, it isn't going very well. If the yes isn't immediate, it's not going very well. And then she tells him no. And not only does she say no, she then gets up and walks up the stairway to leave the area where he is in the arena, leaving this poor guy with a ring, shirtless, and a beer. It's time to retire stadium proposals. There was a time in my life when I was younger where I was like, yeah, I'm going to propose to somebody at like a minor league baseball game. Or I'm going to go to like home plate and get us to throw out the first pitch and I'll propose there. I was always wanting to do something like that. And seeing what's happened and how this whole stadium proposal, professional sporting event proposal thing has worked out, yeah, I'm kind of glad. I don't think I'd want to do it. The first time I ever proposed to somebody, it was at the Little League Baseball. True story. First time I proposed was to a woman. It was 97 or 98. And it was at the baseball fields I used to play Little League Baseball on, and we were the only two people there. And she said yes. We didn't wind up getting married, but at the time, she said yes. So at least if she had said no, nobody would have seen it. This poor guy, everybody saw it. Wild card baseball. Apparently, people like the best 2 out of 3 format. Or maybe they just liked the matchups. Who knows? Everybody tries to judge these things and get inside the numbers, but nobody really knows. The wild card round of baseball games this year, Walt Disney owned those games. 2.8 million viewers across 9 games, up from 1.7 million viewers for 18 games in 2020. That was the last time there was a wild card series. That's a 64% increase. Yay. So people were obviously into it. And that Padres-Mets series, as you could imagine, doing probably the biggest numbers, 4.73 million viewers in Game 3 of that series, where the Padres would eliminate the New York Mets. So congratulations to Major League Baseball. There's a few more people watching your games. Phillies-Cardinals series had an average of about 3.1 million viewers. Broadcast peaked at 4.58 million viewers on Friday when that series wrapped up. So those are good numbers, especially when you're talking about games during the day, not in prime time. I mean, those are pretty good numbers. The Mets games obviously were in prime time, so you would expect some good numbers there. Still obviously not NFL numbers, but for baseball, shows people are still watching. Let's talk about the LA sports scene with Nick Hamilton, the founder of Nightcast Media. He's a host on SiriusXM. He knows all things LA sports. We talk to him next, get his thoughts on the Rams, Cam Akers, the Lakers, the Clippers, and more as we continue on this Friday edition of The Cash In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. All right, so I'll take it out of the interview. Right? Okay. How long is it? Okay, thanks. Now essentially stepping away from the team for a few days? What's going on?
Well, first of all, Jason, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. I must pay your friends very well for me to say such great things about me, so I know the check is good. But as far as Cam Akers is concerned, the Los Angeles Rams, there's been a little bit of friction here and there in the last couple of weeks between the coaching staff and Cam Akers. And so when obviously yesterday he wasn't at practice, there was some eyebrows being raised, but nothing too much because they were like, hey, there were other guys that were being obviously kept out of practice, like Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and name escapes me at the moment.
That's okay.
But anyway, there were certain players that already kept out of practice, so we were like, okay, let's focus on their injuries and kind of watch to see what's going on. And then today, it comes out that Cam Akers has basically been sent home, and he will not be available on Sunday. We're talking to Sean McVay today. He basically just said, look, it's a matter that's going to be kept in-house, and we're going to work through it as a team and as an organization. And that's pretty much the way he put it. And when you say something like that, it could be the fact that Cam Akers' numbers days are numbered when it comes to his participation with the Los Angeles Rams in that offense.
So this isn't anything, and not that I would ask you to speculate, but maybe we can rule some things out. This isn't anything like mental health related or anything like that where, his head's not in the right space or anything like that. It's pretty much performance related and sort of how he's integrating into this offense right now.
Well, it mainly looks as though there may be some, who knows? I don't believe it's mental health, to answer your first question. But also, too, you never know what goes on behind the scenes as far as maybe the availability. He hasn't performed extremely well at all this season, really. And so that could be an issue as far as them wanting to have him do different things that he may not be accustomed to doing. There was a play during the Dallas Cowboys game where there was a gaping hole and he went right. And he got stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey. Instead of paying attention to the holes that were opening up for him, he could have got an easy 20, 30-yard run. I've always said that I think that the number one back on this team should be Darrell Henderson Jr. They recently acquired Malcolm Brown to come back in the fold. And I think Malcolm Brown could be the number 2 guy, and then Cam Akers possibly a number 3 guy. But they're going to have to figure it out rather quickly. Fortunately, they have the limping Carolina Panthers coming into town. So I think that when you have that type of schedule and then you go into the bye, I think there's going to be a lot of different things going on during this bye as it pertains to what decisions are going to be made moving forward with this Rams team, especially with the offense. And again, Cam Akers' key card may not be able to be working as we move forward.
Talking with Nick Hamilton, Sirius XM Radio does a great job with them. So you can check them out with Nightcast Media. So can I just say this? It's rightfully so that people are critical of Cam Akers and saying he hasn't performed to expectations. But you can look at this entire roster and pick a lot of guys that aren't performing to expectations. It's not Cam Akers' fault that this team looks like it's basically sleepwalking through the first 5 games of the season. So aside from turning the attention at Akers, again, who rightfully so has not played well through the first 5 games of the year, and now apparently he's sent home and who knows if he'll ever be back. At the same time, there's a lot of guys on this team right now that aren't performing to expectations. I mean, we always hear the term Super Bowl hangover. I mean, this seems like the epitome of that.
Yeah, it definitely appears that way, especially when you look at the last 5 games and how they've been able to acquire wins. And their wins have not been very notable or something that has been outrageously spectacular. I think the Rams also, too, is mental as well, not just with the injuries that they've been dealing with on the offensive line. Obviously, they have the 2 veteran guys on the edge, but on the interior O-line, there's a lot of second and third string guys due to injury. So I think that's also going to be a problem because if you can't protect the quarterback, Matthew Stafford cannot have enough time to get the ball off to his proper target. But also, too, I think from a mental standpoint, I think the Rams are not used to being the hunted. They're used to being the hunters. They're used to being the underdog. And a lot of times, if you don't shift your mentality to realize, okay, you have a giant bullseye on your back. You are the defending Super Bowl champion. Everyone's going to get a stripe off of you like they were Adidas. So you got to make sure that you are focused, you are locked in. Obviously, you can't escape injuries, unfortunately, but you have to be able to sustain yourself and make sure that you can capitalize on the things that you do have. And one big problem is we have not seen really a major portion of Allen Robinson. Because this is a guy that they paid $30 million for the next 2 seasons. And he's been yet to truly ingratiate himself into the offense and really be that big time over the top wide receiver that they've been looking for. So that's also been a problem. A lot of it, some of it you can say that's due to chemistry, but I think a lot of it too is Matthew Stafford sometimes gets one dimensional, meaning he's so used to going to Cooper Kupp or to Tyler Higbee. But you also have to remember there's Allen Robinson here. Allen Robinson was brought to be an over-the-top back, a big-time wide receiver, rather, that can go over the top and be able to make certain plays to keep drives going. This is one of the reasons why you brought him to Los Angeles. So why not take full advantage of him? So that's also been another mystery as far as getting him like I said, more ingratiated in the offense and being able to just be that type of player that you can look forward to and have some depth at the wide receiver for. Also, they have not had Van Jefferson, who's used to being out there as a number 3 guy that can really stretch the field for you as well. So they've been without Van Jefferson, and there's a lot of other factors involved as well. But those are the key factors that have really been noticeable within the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, and look, you'd like to think that if there was a week they could get right, it would be this one at home against Carolina after they just fired their head coach. But who knows? It's certainly a game from a betting standpoint that I would stay away from, given the way both of these teams have performed through the first 5 weeks of the season. Spending some time on the show tonight with Nick Hamilton, SiriusXM radio host, also the founder of Nightcast Media, joins us here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I'm fascinated by the Lakers. And I know the Clippers are obviously, a lot of people think they're going to be the better of the two teams, which, look, if everybody's healthy, they certainly should be. But I am fascinated by the combination of the new head coach in Darvin Ham, a first-time head coach with all of these egos and personalities coming off of the type of season they did last year. I mean, this thing sets up to be, the perfect made-for-TV drama of 82 games of basketball. Where do you think it all shakes out when it comes to the Lakers in 22-23?
Well, you know what? I can't wait to watch this 30 for 30 on this team in 10 years. Because this, like you said, it is must-see TV. It is must-see, attention-grabbing digital content. Darvin Ham, I think, I think he's going to be a really phenomenal head coach. I just don't know how successful he's going to be in the next couple of years with this cast of characters, meaning LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Pat Beverly, and then Russell Westbrook, who we recently saw when Pat Beverly was trying to rally the troops, I believe, in the third quarter. He was trying to get everybody on the same defensive page, and Russell Westbrook is seen going away like, yeah, man, I got this, whatever. And then he has the cockamamie story later on the next day saying that, I was getting an understanding from one of the coaches. Okay, well, you got to understand from the coaches. Does that still require you to stay away from the other 4 guys as Pat Beverly's trying to wave you over so you guys can all be on the same page? No. And you wonder why people go after Russell Westbrook the way they do, because a lot of stuff he wants to play victim to, but a lot of stuff he causes on himself because he comes off like a jerk. I'm not saying the man is a jerk, but he comes off that way. And he rubs people the wrong way. Even the fan base, as we noticed last season, the way the fan base turned on him because the way he treated not only the fans and the things that he said nonchalantly about the fans, but also how he treated the LA media as well. So a lot of factors are going to have to go into play for this team to be somewhat successful and make the playoffs beyond the play-in tournament. And so I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. First of all, health is a huge concern. Like I've said time and time again, the glue to this team is not LeBron James or Patrick Beverly or even Russell Westbrook for that matter. The glue is the health and safety of Anthony Davis. How many games can Anthony Davis give you? If Anthony Davis can play at least 70 games, this team has a nice chance of making the playoffs, at least making a solid show up in the first round. But if he's unable to play at least 70 games, you're going to be in serious trouble. If LeBron James goes down for any godforsaken reason, that's going to put you even further behind the 8 ball, which is more likely to happen, unfortunately. So I think this is a 40 to 42 win team this year. I think they're a play-in tournament team, and then I think that's it for this team, unfortunately.
Last one before I let you go on the Clippers. Obviously, high expectations for this franchise and this team this year. With both George and Kawhi healthy, there's the thought that this can obviously be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league and compete for an NBA title. If there's one thing that brings them down, what is it?
Health. I think that's the one thing that brings them down is health. Kawhi Leonard, John Wall, Paul George, any of those guys or a combination of those guys are injured for a significant period of time. That makes the Clippers' opportunity start to dwindle as far as making at least the Western Conference Finals, if not the NBA Finals. So I think these guys are going to have to be healthy. I think they're going to have to be able to adjust especially with Kawhi Leonard not being available on back-to-back nights. That's going to be an adjustment that everybody's going to have to.
Love talking to him. It was really enjoyable. First time and hopefully not the last time we get him on the show. Talk a bit about LA sports. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number. 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter as well, at The Back Page if you want to. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. We'll come back and wrap up this week of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Getting set to put the wraps on this baby. college football, the game of the week, number 3 Alabama at number 6 Tennessee. Tide coach Nick Saban telling ESPN on Friday Bryce Young is on track to play, but that final decisions will be made prior to pregame warm-ups or during pregame warm-ups. Quote, he's done a lot more in practice this week and thrown a lot more than he did a week ago. He wants to play and feels like he's healthy enough to play. We'll know for sure once he gets on the field, starts throwing, and how he feels then. And look, as far as his Heisman hopes, he needs this game. So he's got to figure out a way to be out there. There's no reason to rush a quarterback back with this kind of injury, Saban said. Bryce is such a competitor, he always wants to play. The soreness he had last week hasn't been nearly as bad. You can see that when he throws it, but we still need to make sure everything checks out before the game. First time these two teams have met as unbeatens since 1989. I was 12. Tells you how long ago that was. 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this year for Bryce Young, who's obviously a top 3 draft pick when you look at the quarterbacks available in this draft. He's certainly one of the top 3 and will go in the top 5 picks. And Hendon Hooker's been awesome too. Been one of the real stories of college football this year. He's passed for over 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, hasn't thrown a single interception. And he's run it in for a few. So that's the game of the week in college football that we'll all obviously have our eyes on. One last note. Rest in peace, Bruce Sutter. Hall of Fame reliever, Cy Young Award winner, passing away on Thursday at the age of 69, was recently diagnosed with cancer. It's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you to Austin Rodriguez for producing it back in Houston. We'll catch you back here on Monday. Enjoy the football this weekend and all the playoff baseball. I'm Jason Page. It's been the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Bye! Hey, Austin, I'm going to shoot you a quick email with the notes for the podcast. What segments did you put in? Are you just putting in the 2 interviews, or what were you doing? First hour? Okay, that's fine. So first segment of the first hour and the 2 interviews, right? Okay, give me 2 minutes. I'll send you the notes for the podcast, and we're all set. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. All right. To those of you watching on the stream, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for watching all week long. Whether you loved it or hated it, I'm just glad you watched. I'll catch you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. We'll have Paige's Picks on Sunday morning. Till then, I'll see you all later.